Here we are at Angel Corners Garden, and I'm going to see if I can locate Tiffany in here someplace. It's almost like a jungle. Oh, there she is. Hey, Tiffany.
Hi.
What are you up to this morning?
Thursdays are the day that I come out and I do most of my picking.
All right.
So it is digging through leaves that end up thinning out, which you have to thin these out to keep so that the bumblebees can even just see the flowers.
I see.
It's some of these squash can get pretty big.
Yes, they can.
We have out here, we have squash, patty pan. I started growing this variety this year called Vesper, which has a really sweet nutty flavor and a thin skin.
Yes, ma'am.
Very unique color. It's really prolific.
I've never seen a two-tone colored squash like that.
I know. Until I had seen the seeds and read some articles about how much improved the flavor and the texture and everything was, I had never heard of it either. But it's completely natural, non-GMO.
Well, I'll say.
So it's pretty nice. But then we grow the squash. I have cucumbers, everything I need to make pickles.
Okay.
So I have the cucumbers over there. I grow about 4 times more dill than I need so that I can share them with the swallowtail butterflies. And in fact, if we come over here, I bet you we can find some little caterpillars. And they will eat these little plants up and grow super duper fast. See, look right
like
here.
Dill, right?
Yep, that's the deal. See that little caterpillar right there?
Oh.
That'll turn into just a gorgeous black and yellow or black and blue swallowtail butterfly.
And you're not too concerned with the caterpillars eating up your plants? So
No, that's why I plant about 4 times what I need.
Well, my
So
camera's having a tough time trying to focus on that.
No, but I grow more than what I need so that I can share. And it's the same thing, you know, I have the ducks out here so that they're natural bug eaters.
Right.
But at the same time, they're going to snack. You know, anything that I put down new, they've got to taste test it first.
I see.
So you just grow more than what you need. And that's actually kind of partially what happened and how everything got started.
Right.
Walk with me if you don't mind while
Sure.
I work. But about 5 or 6 years ago, sorry if it sounds like a sad story, but I was suffering from horrible depression, just bad. And the doctor, they were telling me, you know, you need to garden.
Yeah.
You need to get a dog. You need to think about something besides yourself.
Yeah.
Which is the straight truth. And it was at that time that I actually started to once again begin my walk with the Lord again.
What do we got going on over there?
We've got a Max who's basically really enjoys terrorizing the ducks.
Okay.
He'll chase them for a second and catch them and let them go.
Okay.
But I started to grow food, and I was like, well, you know, that's a good thing, because in my the early part of my marriage, we were food insecure. I guess that's a politically correct way to place it. And I was like, well, you know what? I'll grow some tomatoes. I'll grow some tomatoes in the front yard. And I went to the local grocery store, and I'm listening to a mother, and this kid's actually asking for vegetables. Not fruit, not candy. He's asking for vegetables. His mother had to tell him, no, we don't have the money. And I'm like, I just grew some of this stuff in the dirt. You know, I can do some more. I can grow some more. I can give it to some people. And at the same time, I was trying to find a way to love my neighbors.
Yeah.
Because that's what the Lord tells you to do. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And so I thought, well, I'll just grow a big old garden. And I'll just start giving, I'll just start giving everything away. I won't worry about nothing. And, you know, trust the Lord. He'll show me what to do and how to do it. And I really had no garden experience. Absolutely none. My grandfather had a garden. My dad had a garden. I didn't care for it. And I fell in love. Just fell in love. Started with 4 little beds right here in the middle. 4 little 4x4s. And grew there. They got bigger. And they got bigger. And I added more beds. And I added more beds. And it all started actually in these little waterbed drawers. And so I started growing, and I started just putting stuff, everything I had extra, in little baskets. In fact, I still have one at the side of the road. And I'd have people drive by real slow and pick them up and get them. Well, then I wanted to actually start talking to people again. I started to come out. You know, there was a time where I couldn't hardly leave the house, and you wouldn't believe with me talking now, but I could hardly talk to people anymore. And I said, well, let's use this so that I can witness to people. Because if you've got, 5-10 pounds of vegetables in your hands, you can't run away too quick before I ask you if you know Jesus is your Lord and Savior.
Right.
And so I started doing that, and I was gardening and taking care of my family, and a lot of things lined up and happened all at once. We had a disabled friend ended up moving in because he could no longer take care of himself. My daughter moved out, granddaughter moved in, just a grandbaby, and my husband's health started to decline, all at the same time. And I was blessed to have the garden because we were depending on it, too, for a lot of our food. But I really thought that I was doing this garden to try to help other people and to love my neighbor. I had no idea. I didn't know what love was, or that this garden was going to be my blessing, more so than even I could help other people out. It was incredible because all these things lined up, and I was just giving and giving and giving and taking care of everything and trying to do everything on my own. And I had all these people come take advantage of me all of a sudden. Just 3 families came out and just picked the garden clean.
Oh my.
One of them even just called me back yelling and insulting me because I wasn't there. I was helping a friend out that day who was going through a hard time, and they called yelling because I wasn't there to help them find vegetables, and accused me of growing drugs because they smelled the sage in the garden. And I was like, I just got on my knees and started praying and was like, what's going on? Why is this happening? All these things. There has to be a reason. There's something I'm supposed to be learning. And I have a core group of lovely people that come by and visit and say hi. They'll pick up a couple of vegetables. They'll buy a dozen eggs from me. And one of those sweet ladies came by and gave me a $5 bill. And I was like, okay, well, let me go get you some eggs. I'll go get you some jams, some jellies. And she's like, no, you're going to take this $5 and you're going to put it towards the garden. And I was like, hey, I can't just take your money. Let me give you something. No, you're going to take this. I just broke down crying. I had never had that. Well, then I realized I didn't know what love was because the gift Jesus gave us was completely free. And there's nothing we can do to earn that. And I learned what love was. And at the same time, I learned that love was also saying no every once in a while. So we changed the policy of the garden from me just constantly giving and giving and giving and not even sometimes asking or knowing who these people were to let me give, but you reap what you sow.
Yes.
You come out, you do a little work.
Yeah.
Bring me some scraps from your kitchens to feed your pigs. Some old bread if you work someplace, coffee grinds that you might have. There's something. There's an old bag of soil. There's a piece of lumber you're not using. Or just, if you can't physically do anything or you're in a situation where you can't financially afford it, which I've been in so many times, pray for me.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, all those takers disappeared. And all those wonderful people that were praying for me and loving me just flourished and showed up. And I began to grow myself. At the same time, the garden took off. And once again, I came to a situation where my husband is healed, wonderful. Grandbaby back with her mother, doing wonderful. I had a little extra time on my hands, so I decided to add more to the garden. But I didn't want it to be a financial burden. So this year I started doing the farmer's garden, the farmer's market, community market, selling jams, jellies, vegetables. And for the first time last week, I went to a greenhouse and bought plants instead of having to grow them myself. I bought food for my animals where I didn't have to try and figure out how to juggle the bills so that I could feed the animals. Which, by the way, let's go meet the animals.
Okay. Now, how long ago did you start this project?
About 4 years ago. And that's starting from the little water beds.
Wow, you've come a long way in
Yes.
4 years.
Well, and you learn so much from gardening. It's the first job that God gives us. You know, He says, take care of the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
You're gonna tend it, and you learn so much from while you're reading the Bible. So many parables concern animals and plants, and you learn from them the good and the bad that they characterize.
Yes.
Pigs are pigs because they're pigs. You know.
Right.
Sheep hear your voice, and you don't really understand that until you have sheep and you realize they really do know my voice, and they'll come running.
Yeah.
And my husband comes outside and yells at him. They look at him like, yeah, you're not, you got food? No, maybe. So there's things that you relate to, like the grapevines. You know, these are actually just third-year vines, and
Wow, and look at, let me get a close-up shot of
I mean,
these
just-
grapes here.
it's incredible.
Now, in my experience, the birds come by and eat them all up before I get a chance to harvest.
Once again, I try to grow more than I would ever need to make jams, jellies, juice, and take care of everybody else so that I can share. And that was another comment that we had from people were saying, well, birds eat them all, birds eat them all. Well, I try to grow so that I don't have to worry about the birds. And you never know, this year they might come and they might pick me clean, and I don't have a single one. But doing this is just realizing that sometimes you're going to harvest and sometimes you're not.
Yes.
Sometimes the ducks are going to eat all your kale that's in the ground, and you just say, okay, if it doesn't come back, I'll put something else in.
Yeah, that's
And
looking a little
that was
spindly there.
them having to taste test everything I put down. These little troublemakers. But I've got these grapevines over here. Once again, you know, it was one of those lessons where I built this gate with the little trellis on it and spent 2 years training these grapes, waiting to get these beautiful seedless table grapes.
Uh-huh.
They turned out to not be beautiful seedless table grapes.
Oh my.
They were mildly sweet, largely seeded grapes. And it just, once again, you know, relating back to the Lord, He said, you know, my beloved built a vineyard and took all the stones out of the ground, built
Right.
a tower in the middle, and planted good grapes and waited for them to come and fruit, and they came up wild grapes. You know, you understand what He's saying there about, you know, the house of Israel and the work that He put towards and how it didn't come to fruition like He wanted. You really don't understand it until you work for a couple of years and something doesn't come out like you really expected it to. There was that actual disappointment that you could relate to.
Now, you mentioned that you just recently started buying some commercial plants. How were
Yes.
you acquiring your plants before that?
I would buy the really, really poor sickly ones on clearance.
Okay.
Bless the ladies at Lowe's that know me. If I had to buy, for example, these grapevines, I would do them late in the season, which would be about now. And they wouldn't have any leaves on them. They'd be on clearance for like $2. And you just spend a lot of extra time working the ground, chicken manure, which I actually anticipate every other week because it does so well for my garden. And then you start working and training and helping them basically grow where they need to grow and stop spreading where they don't need to spread.
Right.
For example, these right here, I don't need this vine growing out, so it needs to be cut out. And that will keep the grapes growing big instead of them wasting energy trying to grow all these extra vines.
Yes.
And
Grapes need a little bit of sunlight
Yep.
too as they're
Yes,
developing, right?
you actually, I go down and I take all the extra leaves off the bottom, and the little piggies help me come out here every once in a while and they'll take care of all the extra leaves for me. But it's not all just picking blackberries, it's constant trimming and work And it's fun though. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very rewarding.
In the fall, do you wind up cutting the vines back closer to some of the main stems
Yes.
so that you
Yes.
get new production for the next year?
Yes, and I have people kind of freak out a little that I'm constantly doing it even during the spring and the summer, but you have to because they're continuing to grow. But I have vines which are taped up, which are the main vines here on each of the trellis that I've trained. And this is just actually where I want everything to grow, is right up next to it.
Yeah.
So I can still walk through here and it can have fruit. Of course, a grapevine wants to go everywhere. It wants to just keep growing and spreading out and
Like wisteria.
I'm like people too. You know, you take yourself too thin, you try to do stuff on your own instead of doing it with the Lord, you end up burning out and not being able to produce any fruit because you've wasted all your energy doing everything else. So this is my maintenance here. I have flowers because I have to bribe the bumblebees. And I have a lot of perennial herbs that I plant too. It was actually pretty scary this year. Don't trip right there for me.
Okay.
I did not see any bees at all until about 2 weeks ago. I was coming out in the morning when I usually see them, not a single one. So I was having to hand pollinate everything, which is a lot of work. And you hear about, oh, the bees are disappearing, you need to do this, you need to do that, and you don't think it's real until you're a gardener and your stuff is falling off the vine and rotting because nothing's been pollinated. So you're having to go out there and take a male flower and literally pollinate all the females so that the fruits don't just rot off the vine.
Yeah.
And about 2 weeks ago, once my flowers started blooming and popping up and we got a little rain, the bees showed back up.
Okay.
Not as many as I'd like.
Now you mentioned bumblebees rather than
just
honeybees.
any kind of honeybees, carpenter bees. I don't even know what, they're not even the carpenter, they're just those teeny tiny any little insect that's bee-like that pollinates. These are my sheep. This is Molly. She's my bottle baby. And this is Bully, not because he's mean, but because his horns go out. And we had a big problem with dogs. I've lost 8 of my sheep to the same dog over the last year and a half.
Oh my.
Until I finally, I felt so bad I caught her out here. She was so desperate and hungry that she was out here killing them in the daylight in my backyard. So I'd always move my sheep into the backyard at night because that's when she was killing them most of the times while I was sleeping because I'm asleep or I'm away. So I'm still in the habit, and they're still in the habit of coming back into the backyard and then moving out in the field during the day. And they get to come out here and run around. Come on, Molly. She's just like, I'm not running. I'm just gonna mosey. She's a sweetheart. And then my ducks figured out a couple months ago that they could come through here and go through this field and come through that field and go to the front and get into the garden.
Oh my.
I know. You know, people say bird brains or birds aren't smart, and they really are. They know their schedule. They know when I'm about to come out and feed. They know when they need to be moved. But every day I'll move the sheep out there. And I'll let the pigs out into the yard. Hush, Brock. Brock's another one of my old dogs. He's about 13.
No, I may be thinking wrong, but these kind of look like what I know is Vietnamese potbelly pig.
She's a Vietnamese potbelly, and she's a pet.
Okay.
These are miniatures. They're Class 4 American miniatures,
Okay.
and they are dirty because they love rolling in the mud.
Understandable.
And the breeding pair were gifted to me a couple of years ago by a friend who was downsizing his farm, and he bred them for meat. While I've eaten one back then, I can't bring my heart to to eat one now. I've gotten to know them a little too well. But that's Grumpy. Tilly's in the back. Daisy's unloading her.
Uh-oh. Taking the bathroom break.
Yeah, I let them in here. They'll eat what's left of the little chicken food that the chickens haven't gotten to yet. Come check on everybody. I have another thing that I do to raise money is I have a little hatchery.
Okay.
So I hatch ducks and chickens, and I'll raise them up. Some of them I just sell as chicks. Some of them I'll raise up till they're past feathers, so that people don't have to do the whole brooder.
Yeah.
That's when it's so difficult, and especially for new people, to try and take care of them, keep the right temperature, the foods, the water, and everything. These guys right here are actually going to be mine. They're going to join the flock.
Okay.
I add about 5 to 10 birds a year, and usually then cull about that many that are getting older. You having fun, Brock? I grow some fruit trees out here so that they have some shade. The only problem is it only takes 5 minutes for the sheep, if the gate's not closed, to come out here and kill a fruit tree.
Oh my. Oh my.
So we have some survivors, and it's basically it's all up to me to make sure that I've actually shut everything up before the sheep come out in the afternoon. But then my little chicks, I keep back here. I have some little Rhode Island Reds and Americanas, and I just picked up some guinea keats. Guineas are so wonderful. I have 2 that are about 2 years old.
They're quite an unusual bird.
They are. Oh my goodness, they'll get your snakes, your scorpions, your big spiders, which I'll fully admit I am terrified of tarantulas.
Yeah.
They scare me so much. And those guineas will eat a tarantula in a heartbeat. I need to change the water out here in just a second. But I hatch a couple different, I have some cabinet incubators and just a couple little tabletop incubators. And I'll usually slow down about this time of the year. So I'll do some for some people that I have that need them all year long. And then, did you jump that fence? And then just a couple to raise up for people that decide during the late season, oh, I meant to get chicks. No, it's no chicks, I need chickens. So then I'll have those available. But that's pretty much the grand tour.
Okay.
Is, you know.
Now, do you make use of the manure?
Oh my goodness!
I'm sure you've got compost piles
someplace
for you.
Actually, I just laid out new compost out here, but I lay down wood chips out here, and then every couple months I scrape the whole thing down to about 2 inches. Mm-hmm. And that gives me all the wonderful manure from chickens, ducks, and pigs. And then all that wood mulch that's come down, that goes out into the garden. Scrape that chicken coop down every month, and that is just the best for growing. A lot of people want to do particular things with it, like make tea, mulch it with other stuff. I've never had a problem throwing it straight down, just right onto the plant and it being taken care of.
Right.
So it's worked well for me.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have a number of heirloom plants that you have been working with for some time. Mm-hmm. Is there a reason why there is a great interest in using heirloom plants rather than things that come out by the seed companies these days?
A lot of the seed companies have gone to the heirlooms, and I think it's just the interest, and it's become trendy again for the non-genetically modified because they'll grow from themselves. I have trays over here, which these are actually cuttings from the suckers that grow between the vines of the tomatoes. And if you get something that that doesn't produce from its own seed, for example, it's patented. If I was to take the sucker off of it and then put it down here and let it get roots and replant it, because this makes a wonderful plant, by the way, I'm actually breaking the law. Because somebody owns that patent and owns the rights to that plant. I don't own that plant. I'm not allowed to do anything but harvest the fruit from it. Same thing with some varieties of roses and things like that. So it's really gone back to the fact that I can fully grow these without having to worry about legal, not that I really think anybody's going to come out here and give me trouble, but morally, I would know that I'm stealing if I was stealing. And I'm not going to answer to God for stealing a tomato plant. A sin is a sin. Why would I want to do that? So the heritage, they grow really well. You only have to do a few other things to them to keep them prolific. Just because some of the newer varieties are more resistant to molds, rots, different bugs. But if you take some precautions, for example, cleaning all the leaves up off the bottom, which I believe I showed over here, but call it to the attention, it keeps mildew from growing. And if you don't want to use pesticides and you use things like ducks, you know, they're also going to help you eat everything that's low. But I cut all the leaves off the bottom, and then probably about a third of the ones that are coming up, and it keeps the air flowing, keeps the mildew. Even though it's dry out here, we still have mildew issues. It's the same thing for the squash. You take off about half the leaves so that there's airflow and that the bees can actually see the flowers. So it's a little more work, but it's not a lot of work, and it's worth it. The variety of fruit that you get is tastier if you can keep your pigs from getting into it. I posted on Facebook, I let the piggies come out because they like to eat the grass and everything, and they just discovered that there's fruits growing out here.
Oh, I see that one's got a bite out of it, doesn't it?
Yes, so Daisy came out here and she just went, within like 15 seconds, she had half a dozen tomatoes in her mouth.
Oh, my.
And filled it up like a chipmunk and went running away whenever I yelled at her because she knew she was doing something wrong. And that's one of the joys of having animals, is that, yes, they're going to tear something out, but you got to laugh. You know, it's hilarious. And so she ran off and I chased her down, and it's a joy. You just learn to roll with stuff, so it's fun.
We just mentioned Facebook. I first got acquainted with you, Tiffany, over the Facebook group. I believe it's called Amarillo Area Gardeners.
Yes. That group has been up for probably about 2 years and really grown.
Yes.
And in fact, you know, I want to teach people how to grow, and I don't actually have very many people come out to the garden, hardly.
Okay.
Most of my teaching is online now. I have people just email me a picture of a plant and go, what is wrong? What have I done? Why is it dying on me? And it's like a little detective work. You ask them questions, they'll send you pictures, you give them suggestions, and they'll get back with you and go, oh, look, this worked. Now what do I do? So,
well, isn't that part of our calling?
Yes.
Is being part of the body of Jesus Christ.
The body of Jesus Christ,
that we lift each other up.
Help each other. Yes, most definitely. Teaching, I wanted to teach, and it's just it's another way of ministry. You know, being a minister isn't standing in a pulpit, it's ministering to people's needs. And sometimes you have to minister to these needs, you know, to help them grow so they can see the love and what love is, so that they can desire it themselves. Certainly. And go find it. I mean, seek ye the Lord. You have to seek the Lord. Yes, the Lord's going to give you chances, and He's out there with every opportunity, but He's not going to knock on your door like Mary Kay and say, here, please let me give you this free gift so you'll accept me in your home. Yeah. No, you have to seek Him and want Him. You have to want that love. Sometimes you have to want that discipline that comes with it. So definitely, any way that I can try and help people and love people in different ways, which sometimes can be saying no, sometimes it can be being truthful, and I'll even hurt people's feelings quite often. You know, if they're doing something I know is wrong, I will tell them, I'm not doing it to be mean. Yeah. I've been there. I've done that. I've suffered for it. I don't want you to suffer for it. So.
Now, you also have a Facebook page of your own.
Mm-hmm. Angel Corners Garden. I got the name because the street is Angelus, which is Spanish for angel. The Lord tells us, the landowners, do not harvest the corners of your fields. Leave them for the poor. And I was like, well, that makes sense. I'll call it, Angel. There'll be lots of corners so people can come harvest. And it's a garden. So Angel Corners Garden kind of got started that way. Just a couple little drawers full of tomatoes, some people needing a bit of food and some love, and me learning. And it still amazes me that I have been blessed so much from doing this. I really believed that I was just trying to help and bless other people, but the Lord has just worked amazing things in my life from gardening and doing this.
Well, rest assured, you have been a very big blessing to those who have not taken advantage of you, as some have. But
you know what? Sometimes it's okay, as long as it leads somewhere, as long as it goes somewhere. You've got to accept help to learn to give help. You've got to give help to learn to accept help. There's got to be givers, there's got to be takers, but there's got to be balance, among other things. I had to learn to accept love to really know what love was.
I understand.
And unfortunately that happened so late in my life, but it's grown.
Oh, I just spotted something here.
What's that?
And I don't recall seeing this plant very often, especially in this area. This is a fig, is it not?
This is a fig. I don't grow the black turkeys. I grow some, I believe this is an LSU, and it's a foreign name for basically little black fig.
Okay.
But these are more winter hardy. And this is one of those things that takes a little bit of extra work. I'm doing an experiment this year. I bought these 2 years ago. 2 to 3 years ago, almost everything. It's just little tiny sticks in a styrofoam cup. And they'll get about 12 to 14 feet high over the next couple months and just bush out. Well, the problem is, like the grapevines, they'll spend all their energy growing branches, and they'll start their fruit too late. You won't get any fruit on them. Mm-hmm. And they just end up falling away. Like people, they waste too much time. So what I do is I go in here and I'm taking one of each variety, because there's 2 varieties, and thinning the canes down in half. And then I come back in every couple of weeks, and when there's more down here at the bottom, thinning those up so that there'll be about 10 good canes. And we'll see. Hopefully I'll be blessed this year with some figs.
All right. Can you start these from cuttings?
Yes. In the spring is the best time to start these from cuttings. And what I'll also do, and I did a little article about it, is that I'll take some of the lower hanging branches like this, place some dirt underneath it and something on top, and they'll root over the winter. And then you'll just be able to cut them up, and they're already rooted, and they're ready for you to start a new plant.
Yes, that's an excellent way to start many types of plants.
But for example, this one was done that way. Done that way last year. I moved this here, and they usually take about a year to just really get there's another one right there, to really get the roots developed. And then the second year, and by the third year, they'll be at their full potential. So these are their second years. And so by next year, they should actually be touching the top of this and probably creating a little bit too much shade.
Okay.
But I've got to have some shade for the tomatoes, or it gets too hot and the tomatoes' fruit won't set. So you just find different ways, whether it's going ahead and letting some, I believe it's called Sassenach, grow up to create some shade, build and grow shade plants, whatever you can do naturally to try and help support everything else.
Yes.
And then it's just constant experimentation. And if it works great. You'll do it the next year. And if it doesn't, you don't get upset. You just roll with it. Just say, okay, well, that didn't work. We'll try something else new. And that's what life is. It's all about
Okay.
learning.
Well, I must make a confession. I was in such a hurry this morning. I had intended to bring over some of this year's brand new crop of walking Egyptian bulblets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're ready to put in the ground. Mm-hmm. And I just love those things.
Yes.
And the really cool thing about these particular plants is that they were raised by the same family just south of Miami, Texas, for over 125 years.
Wow.
And the fellow who gave them to me has already since passed away. I think he was about 94 when he passed away, and that's been right at 6 years now. So just from his own word of mouth,
Isn't that kind of, those are amazing
I know that
stories.
they're over 100 years old.
And you know, it's amazing because so many families will do that. They'll have plants that they'll love that they'll bring over. My grandparents did it with roses. They were like,
Yeah.
these are the ones that my great grandmother had or that she found whenever they were traveling, and then she, you know, take the cuttings, move them and move them. We did that with the rose bushes from my mother-in-law who passed away. You know, same thing. Take cuttings, you keep them in the family. That's wonderful. That's heritage, and it's something I think is being lost. Those skills, those memories. The blackberry bushes I purchased from a girl. Those all came, once again, little cups, little tiny sticks. And I ordered them online from a young lady, and then I told her, wow, these are taking off, that's wonderful. She said, that is great to hear. I've had those, my mother had those, my grandmother had those, and now I'm getting to see that they're going all across the country and being grown.
Yes.
And so it's
Well, that's what I'm hoping to do with Willie Renter's
walking onions.
Egyptian onions.
They just keep walking around.
Yes, they do.
That's wonderful.
Well, thank you very much, Tiffany. It's been wonderful, and I promise I'll come back with some of those little bulblets.
I'd love some to try some. Yeah, because I have onions growing here, and I will tell you that is one of the first things that people, I know my ducks have enjoyed them down, but that's one of the first things that people ask for is, are you growing onions? Tomatoes, onions,
Right.
squash, and any kind of berries or fruits.
Yeah.
So,
The thing I love about the walking Egyptian onions is that not only are they self-propagating, but you can eat every portion of the plant.
I've heard that from the bulb at the bottom, and then they have all the little tiny ones at the top and that flop over
Yes.
and just keep, because they're walking, and then the stalks.
Yes.
So,
Get
that's
much
wonderful.
better production if you go ahead and separate them from the clusters, though, and plant them individually so they have
I'll get
a
a hold
place
of
to
you.
spread their feet.
You can minister to my needs as I ask you questions about how to grow this new thing.
Oh, wonderful. I'll be happy to trade plants with you anytime.
Well, thank you for coming out, and thanks everybody for just letting me chat and show you my little garden and all the little animals that are around here. So.
Okay, and if anybody has any questions, they know how to get a hold of you through
just
Facebook now.
Through Facebook, I love personal messaging. I mean, sometimes it takes a little while to get it, but I'll get the little ding, I can answer, I can see pictures of things that are going on, and I'm more than happy to answer questions and help people out any way that they can. And people are welcome to come out to the garden.
Okay.
You know, ask questions, walk around, see what's going on. Sundays and Thursdays are the days that I'm out here and I'm doing all the work. So I'd love to see anybody who'd
All
like
right,
to come out.
very well. And I'll also place links to those particular pages on Facebook in the description below this video.
I'd love that. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Y'all have a
you.
blessed day.
Bless you.
Bye-bye.